All right, Matthew, we are on. It is, I think this is session number 3 of 2022. Um,
That's right, Sergio.
I feel like the year's going by really quick. Like we're already in April, and it's like so much has happened in the world, and even in business, and like just what's going on, right? Like a lot of stuff's happening right now.
Yeah, we're seeing it all. Honestly, the last 2 years have been a roller coaster ride in the markets. I think a lot of people are investing. We remember looking at it. A lot of retail investors have gotten in the market for the first time, and they're seeing it all, ups and downs.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like I think the big news is the biggest thing that I see, and no one's talking about it because Chris Rock got slapped. But the biggest thing that I see right now is when looking at the 10-year Treasury, US Treasury bonds, the yields,
Yep,
it's like, it's potentially on its way to take out the previous highs in 2018 on the 10-year yield when we hit like 3%.
yep, and it's been steadily declining for what, 2 decades? Maybe a lot.
Four
No,
decades. This is a
four
four,
decades,
yeah, it's a 40-year trend. So it's a
40 year
40-year
trend.
trend of lower interest rates constantly, like in a trend, right?
And now we're switching to higher interest rates. Who does that benefit and who's going to have a hard time? Because I can see,
Okay, well, let's review like the past year. On
okay,
the expectations of interest rate hikes, just the expectation of interest rate hikes from the pandemic, we've seen the 10-year yield go from 50 basis points to where we are now, 260 basis points. So
wow,
0.5% paid to you per year, right? So like 0.5% per year on your money, okay? When the Fed started saying, okay, we're gonna start hiking the rates because things are getting out of control, this instead of paying you 0.5%, now it's paying you 2.6.
that's crazy. People say, that's 2%. It's not huge, but that's 5 times the
That's a
payout.
lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
If you're getting that, awesome. If you're paying it, not so awesome.
And and the crazy thing is that like most of the people that we know, uh, their whole lives we've been in this downtrend of like lower interest rates.
Yeah, it's been the best environment to borrow money, create ideas, start business. And that's what we've seen. A whole lot of industries have taken off like crazy. Um,
Yes.
Whereas our grandparents would have been in the days of, I have money, I can supply it to somebody and I'll be paid generously. I can lend it out. Instead, investors were thinking, you know what? It's time to borrow money,
Yeah,
invest in
exactly.
something else.
Exactly. Right? When interest rates are so low, like there's very little money to be made. Like there is money to be made lending, but the amount you could charge is far less. As these interest rates go up, you could charge more for sure. Right? So,
100%.
if we're in a world where like an institution or call it like high net worth individuals or family offices can, risk free park, $1 billion at call it, I don't know, 5% per
That's, yeah, you
year.
can
I'll,
retire.
I'll put it right here. You may see them do that, right? You may see them do that, and what that could do is that can obviously put pressure on crypto, on stocks, on a lot of traditional assets, right? For the
Mhm.
past 40 years, they've incentivized not to do that because they know every year their money is going to be debased. That 5% is not going to buy them anything,
Mhm.
right? So no one's talking about this. I think this is pretty big.
That's right. And I'm hearing different ideas. Inflation is going to come down. We're going to have a period of stagflation. That's something that Ray Dalio said, and we just watched his video about the changing world order. That was very interesting. Maybe that's something we could speak on another time. I definitely recommend checking it out. But what's your take on this? Like we've seen crazy inflation. Now we're hit with these rate hikes. A lot of tech companies, a lot of companies that have borrowed a lot of debt are now paying that debt, cutting into their revenue, lowering profits, lowering stock price. I don't know. How do you see that? Do you think Ray's call for stagflation is correct, or do you have a totally different idea?
So what is stagflation? Stagflation is when you're not really getting growth in asset prices
Mm-hmm.
or GDP, and therefore you don't really get that much growth in asset prices, while inflation is still relatively high. While the price of things is pretty high,
Yep.
right?
With high
So
inflation, the caveat's always been, hey,
yeah,
inflation's high, but economy's doing well. Everything's stimulated. There's more money. Things are going to be okay. It's going to even out. We might even do
yeah,
much better, regardless of the inflation. With stagflation, it's kind of like, hey, we printed money, we
yeah.
inflated the currency, and it didn't really have the positive effect we were looking for.
Well, it did have the positive effect that they were looking for. It lifted asset prices and it kept people from defaulting on stuff, right? Like
Yeah,
it
I just
kept.
mean with stagflation, it would be if there was no positive, was no growth out of that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we were potentially dealing with. And to get stagflation now isn't completely out of the question, right? Like if you look at Amazon, right, as like a measurement of the United States stock market, right? Just Amazon, right? Like this is 20 what this is 2001 right here, right? We're in 2022 now, right? Like we've had serious growth on Amazon, like serious
Hmm.
growth.
Insane growth.
Okay? So to get stagflation, which would just mean what it could look like is Amazon not going up, but simply just trading sideways for a period of time. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years,
Hmm.
right? Like that alone could be stagflationary. Stock markets do nothing while the price of gas and commodities stays relatively high, right? Like if we look at oil, right?
And
So
I'll just mention it real quick. Good morning, Leanna, Randy, Demetrios. Come on camera if you can, when you can. Ask any questions, chime in, interact. Make sure we're having some conversation as well, so we're not monologuing.
yeah, like I love talking to myself though. So if you don't want to chime in, it's okay. I don't mind. Right, so that's Amazon. So we have Amazon all-time highs. It could easily be going just trading sideways for a year, 2 years. That's stagflationary. And let's look at some commodity prices. If any of you guys are driving, you just probably drove by a gas station. Um, it's pretty expensive, right?
Mhm.
Like this is price of oil. Like if you look at a chart here, um, this price of oil trading at $100 a barrel. The highest we've been is 140. And I have these drawings here, but like if I was to just erase all that, it's very possible that this leg up on oil here, this move up on oil, even if oil prices stayed here, just like Amazon, let's say Amazon flattened out and oil flattened out, that would be stagflationary. That would mean higher prices for everyday goods. The higher the price of oil, the higher the price of everything else, because everything requires oil, right? So if the price of oil stays up here at $100 a barrel, then we're going to have stagflation. Could the governments come out and create some proposals, some agreements, some type of politics, something that could put pressure on oil and bring us back down here? Absolutely. Right? We can't. I don't want to rule that out either. Right? And just because it's never been done in the past or we don't have any historical reference doesn't mean it can't be created now. Right? Like so, I'm watching that. Um, in general, I think now the stock market's a little tricky. Let's just go to the stock market, and then we're gonna get into today's presentation about how to get exposure to cryptocurrencies. Because I think you're gonna have a lot of clients asking you, Do you have Bitcoin? Have you heard of this Bitcoin shit? Do you have Dogecoin? How do you buy it? How do you hold it? That's what today's going to be about. Um, this is just an overview of the S&P 500, so U.S. stock market. Okay, you can see the growth, from the Great Recession, 2008. Here you got 2020. This thing's in an uptrend, right? And a lot of people are expecting a crash, and you know, there's a bunch of other people that are just expecting it to just continue climbing higher. Um, Either can happen. I don't know yet. Either can happen. What I do want to zoom in on and just point something out to you, Matt, is the market was crashing since the beginning of January in the anticipation of these rate hikes. Okay,
Hmm.
and the internal market. Okay, so this is the S&P 500. The S&P 500 started crashing in January of 2022. The stocks inside of the S&P, smaller companies inside the S&P, they topped out in May of 2021. Like tech companies, riskier companies, they topped out in May 2021, and then other parts of the sector started topping out in August 2021, and so on and so on. But the S&P only topped out in January of this year. Okay, so the question is have all these stocks that topped out here, have they bottomed out now and they're ready to continue higher? And has the S&P 500 bottomed out now and are we ready to head higher? Or do we have one more leg of downside action? You know what I mean? In front of us. And it's too tough to tell for me, right? I think if your clients are dollar cost averaging, they should be okay. Like if your clients invested here, but then they also invested here, here, and here, that's not too over a long time horizon. That's not too bad,
Yeah,
right?
100%. And I
If we
have
get
some clients that are dollar cost averaging right now through these, maybe once a month or so, maybe once every other week, through these times.
yeah,
And I'm just letting them know, hey, this is a good time to buy. Like we're going to be putting money in for the next couple of years. Even if things go down, that would probably be a good thing. Clients that have are, if you had a client that you were ready to put their money in January and you dollar cost average, good on you. That was definitely a good call.
yep.
But there's always the tough conversation of letting them know, hey, things are a little bit scary right now, and depending on the time horizon, that might look a little bit different. But anyone who did a rebalance in January of 2022 and put some of that equity growth into some less risky assets for maybe their older clients, definitely a good call with hindsight being
I don't even know what
2020.
the less risky assets are now, though.
That
You get what I'm saying? Because okay, you have stocks here. Okay, this is picture this. This is stocks. This is North American stocks.
yeah,
Potentially in the
S&P.
short term, potentially vulnerable to another leg down, or we could make new highs and then get a leg down. Either or. Okay. If you pull up like bonds, like this, let's just pull up like a treasury bond, a U.S. treasury bond. Okay. Um, like this is all-time highs here in 2020. This is the same. So this is going to be the inverse of the yields. The 10-year yield. It's going to be the opposite, right? Because the
Mhm.
lower the lower the yield, the higher the price of the bonds, right? So you can see here when yields were at all-time lows, the bond price was at all-time highs, right?
Mhm.
Does that make sense? When interest rates were at all-time lows, bond prices all-time highs.
Yeah.
So now you got people in those 60-40 portfolios of stocks and bonds. Okay, so you're buying bonds. But what if the bonds keep going lower in price?
No one wants your bond now that they can get a higher interest rate, right?
Exactly.
It's hard to
Or
sell that.
or just because people are selling bonds for whatever reason, even though the interest rate goes up, they're less desirable, right? Like it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
a higher interest rate doesn't necessarily beget a higher bond price. a higher interest rate could actually get a lower bond price. Does that make sense?
Yeah, new bonds might be another story, but selling the one that you've had for a while, I don't know. And that kind of brings into, if you have somebody, the people that are suffering, it's not the 20 or 30-year-old that is putting money away every month and has a disability policy and can afford any sort of 10-year, 10-year dip wouldn't even bother them because they're not going to take the money out. It's a lot of our older clients that are looking ready for retirement. And if we can't put them into equities out of fear of them not doing well, we can't put them in the bonds. What do we end up investing their money in? We're trying to
Cryptocurrencies?
be a
I don't
little
know.
bit crypto.
No, it's tough. It's hard. It's hard,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, right? And okay, so you're saying, okay, if you're young and you got a long time horizon, now you may not need to be worried if you're just buying into the U.S. market, right? But remember, like I always look at, and I know the U.S. isn't Japan, so it doesn't necessarily mean this could happen in the U.S. But
it could.
I have to bring this up. I have to bring this up. The Japan was on a massive bull run. Like if I had more data, it would look like the U.S. bull run. Like it would look like this thing like this. Okay. And then from 1989 to like I think 2011, 2010, so 30 years. Or what was it? Yeah, 30 years. No, sorry, 20 years, right? 1990 to 2010. That's 20 years. 20 years of the market going down,
Hmm. We
right?
haven't really seen that here. It's
And
hard to
we
imagine
haven't
that.
seen that. We haven't seen that. And what we also haven't seen is the potential of the 10-year on the US bonds to cross that chasm there of like 3%. We also haven't seen that.
Mhm. And I'll say maybe you disagree with this, if so I'd love to hear it. But I think it's never been easier than it is now to invest in different markets, to move your money from just domestic investing, North
Why
America
would I disagree
funds
with that?
over somewhere else. I don't know. I don't have any data to back that up, but in my mind, it's easier now to invest globally. And I
Yeah, but
always
it
recommend
is.
that. It's a good hedge. We never know.
But
The West has been on top for so long. Is that going to continue? Maybe not.
but what's nuts about that is okay, like if you think it's easier for someone in South America to buy S&P 500 now than it was 10 years ago, you're right. But today it's still ultimately much easier for them to buy Bitcoin and get into cryptocurrencies.
100%.
So for sure, everything's now more accessible, 100%. And crypto is probably going to suck up a lot of that capital, right? Like, I feel like people living in a lot of these countries that have these depreciating currencies, we haven't talked too much about currencies, but countries that live in these countries with these depreciating currencies, the first thing they're going to start looking at is like US dollar stable coins, right? How can I get digital US dollars and Bitcoin, right? And this is a big move down on Bitcoin actually. The fact that 45,000 is in holding, and we're coming back down pretty ferociously, um, right? We're not out of the woods yet on Bitcoin, right? We'll see. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. Big reversal here because we're taking out this previous double top resistance here, right? So, anyways, Matt, you think anything else you want to talk about? Or should we just get into the presentation? We got about. I know the Bitcoin conference is on. Let me see if anything. Let me see if they're talking about anything interesting.
Yeah. Sure. Make sure you're showing your computer audio. Let's see what they're talking about. You said it's a 4-day,
It's
4-day live
conventional, and anyone
stream.
who's interested in Bitcoin
Yeah,
is there is
yeah, it's gonna be a 4-day live stream.
there's clearly
Computer time, I think, cool.
a life's work of work for all of us to do. I agree that
That's the thing
agree with
about
Michael
Bitcoin. Like,
that
it's getting all this
everything here is
free
moving way faster
advertisement,
than I ever would have predicted,
marketing.
which makes me very tentative to
Yeah, we're
predict
talking
anything
about it.
going into the future.
Yeah.
Except that Bitcoin is going to continue to expand, it's going to continue to grow, continue to get more.
Cases are now. In another report by Forrester, merchants say that they intend to pay with digital currencies for goods and services this year. And about 2 in 5 consumers say that they believe that crypto should be used for more than just investment and as part of their day-to-day payments. What was also interesting was that when we asked both merchants and consumers their preferred cryptocurrency, of course, Bitcoin was at the top.
Just went fast there.
Now, the survey we served 30. When we asked CFOs and treasurers, the top reason why they're not engaging with cryptocurrency today is uncertainty in the regulatory environment. We are making progress, but there's a lot more to come. The IMF has released a call for consistent and global regulatory framework for crypto. The EU is in the process of passing legislation under its
I'm just gonna pause. So I think that's the big thing with crypto right now. Like we're gonna hear a lot more about the regulations around it, and it looks like they're moving, like they're leaning into it. It's not like they're trying to like shut it down. It looks like they're just trying to say, okay, how can we make money off this or make sure people are safe, right? I think, which is
Yeah,
huge. It's huge.
the regulatory aspect is really interesting. I think a lot of people want the regulation. They want governments to normalize this. And once it is just sort of more mainstream, everyone knows about Bitcoin now. You know, you ask your grandparents about Bitcoin, they say, yeah, I've heard of it, but not everyone owns it. Not everyone has these accounts, and it occurs to them as though, you know, you set it up, you don't need a SIN number. A lot of times you don't need an ID. Anyone can own it. It's democratized. Libertarians love it. But a lot of people think, you know what, this isn't a brick and mortar place I can put my money and have trust in that. And there's a trust for these banks that we have in Canada that doesn't exist for a lot of people in the crypto world. And I don't want to dismantle trust in banks, but I think that that's weighted more heavily than it should be.
Well, yeah, it's just what we've had for like, since the 1800s or whatever, right? So it's just we're evolving, and
100%.
100%. Like this is crazy. Like how fast it's moving, right? And yeah, I'm taken back by it for sure. We'll see.
Mhm. And I'll say two things. I see in the political world, there's a lot of noise, but I'm hearing more and more about Pierre. Can't pronounce his last name. Running for PM, and he's embracing Bitcoin. He's embracing cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, he is.
Yep, he's embracing it, and that has people wondering what's going to happen next. Is Canada going to have this massive adoption similar to El Salvador? Is every country going to adopt it differently? And then digital currencies could be any sort of way. There's so many different cryptocurrencies that are made different ways, used for different things, centralized, decentralized. And I think that we're going to see governments come out with digital currencies. And I'm going to make a prediction. If it comes true, then I'll look back at this moment. If it doesn't come true, then I'm going to ignore it. But I think we're going to see, sometime in the next 5 years, a big country is going to come out and they're going to make a digital version of their fiat currency. First country might be the US.
Hasn't China already done this?
Might be China. Is China done it? They've been talks about it. I think China and Russia would be the first to do so.
Yeah, like pilot project maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I like to see that. Randy says Canada. I think it's going to be Russia or China. Might be Canada, might be the US. I don't think it's going to be a smaller country with a smaller GDP. They would probably lean into Bitcoin, as we've seen El Salvador do. But then again,
I think we're going to have another country like El Salvador buy Bitcoin. Probably a couple of them buy Bitcoin in the next year. That's one prediction I'm making.
Probably. And I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be China or Russia. I don't think that.
No, I don't think it's going to be one of those big. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be one of those big countries.
Smaller country with a weaker currency that's thinking, why are we trying to compete with this currency? I mean, I've been to
But buying Bitcoin isn't competing with it necessarily.
I believe South Korea has started switching to digital currency. I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
and they have a conservative leadership now in
Yeah.
South Korea, and
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because it echoes what Matthew's saying about Pierre Poilievre. He's conservative. Um, he's running to lead the conservatives, right, or whatever, like to be a PM. Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah. He wants
Okay.
conservative leadership
So if
of
he
that
gets
party.
elected, that would be crazy bullish for cryptocurrency because, okay, even if they don't take it on as, let's say, legal tender, and let's say they don't even allow you to pay your taxes with it, for example, but if they start adopting it as like a reserve asset or some type of savings vehicle, or even if they just invest in the innovation in its infrastructure, like that'd be huge for Bitcoin. That'd be huge. That'd be huge for crypto space in general, and I think that'd be good for Canada too.
Yeah.
Because look at Florida. Like the mayor in Florida just came out and said a couple hours ago, he's like, we're doing whatever we can to have Bitcoin fully integrated into our economy. Right, and I'm pretty sure Florida saw like an influx of people move, right? Like they saw immigration, right? They probably saw population growth, so I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to start seeing more of that, and Florida is just early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people are going to be moving out of, unfortunately, left-wing cities.
The mass exodus continues.
I didn't want to use that term, but yes, I totally agree with that term.
And we're seeing it where I think in the past it was probably harder to move with a lot of people working from home, being able to work remotely, not being tied down in one place. If you pass laws that infringe on someone's the way they want to live their life, they will move. And that kind of creates more of a balance of power in the political spectrum. So maybe that's a good thing. People are starting to move. Obviously, we don't want people to move halfway across the country every 2 years, but it sends a message. So this is what people want.
My wife and I are looking into South America. We're looking Florida. She wants Texas, but I want Florida because by the time we can afford it, we'll be in the age range of most Canadians that live there.
Oh my god.
I think Texas, Florida. Yeah, they're both nice. I think they're conservative, right? And they're very pro crypto, very pro Bitcoin, very pro freedom and individualism,
Yeah.
Randy wants to talk about Elon. I love talking about Elon.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think what Elon's doing now is, okay, Elon has Bitcoin. Twitter's kind of like a Bitcoin company in a way, right? Like I think
How so? Because they were connected to Square.
because Jack Dorsey's like a
Jack
Bitcoin
Dorsey's
guy.
gone, right? To my
Yeah, he's
understanding.
gone, but like obviously he was influential.
Okay.
And they even have that friggin' Bitcoin emoji that's so cool on there. Right? And Elon is with Peter Thiel and Jack Dorsey and those guys like from PayPal days, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure Elon Musk has been making a lot of money and responsible for a lot of the adoption of cryptocurrency, right?
I think,
I don't
yeah,
know.
we have these people that speak out that aren't really like a Ray Dalio, aren't really like an investment guy, but they're successful in business. And when they speak, people react to that. And I just find it funny relating to the last topic we were talking about. I see a lot of regulation around cars, around carbon and around climate change. And Canada, Trudeau's announcing not selling gasoline vehicles past a certain date. The date keeps changing. And I know California had a lot of rebates. You buy an electric car, government's going to help subsidize that payment. They're going to give you a rebate. There's a push to go green, but then they also kind of pushed Elon out of California and the Tesla plant moved to Texas. And when you think Texas, you think oil. So that's so strange to a lot of people.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, people will not team up with, whoever they like. It's more so, what are you going to give us? Are you going to let Bitcoin be used, or is it going to be, okay, you know what? We need to support the country, America first, use our currency. A lot of people thought Donald Trump would be interested in Bitcoin, wouldn't regulate it. And he kind of said, you know what, digital currency. He's an older guy too, made his money in a different, in
Donald
the
Trump's a,
traditional way.
Donald Trump thinks Bitcoin is a currency. That's why.
He thinks it's yeah, he made it sound like he wasn't interested in it at all. He talked
Exactly.
about China starting a currency. So I don't know. Like we see, I don't think Joe Biden's really embracing Bitcoin. There might be some regulation there. I'm hearing that.
It's more
That
around
could be good
stable.
news.
For sure. For sure. They've already started. There's an executive order on it, and it's mostly
Yeah.
around stable coins.
Okay. Okay. Mostly around stable coins. Well, we'll jump
Yeah.
into the last
Yeah.
half here. I know that we're running a little bit short on time. We have a disclaimer. I'm not going to read it. Go ahead and take a read. We're not going to try to put in any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Subliminal messaging. We're not telling you to buy anything. We're just expressing our opinions. We have some educational material. We are financial advisors, all of us. This recording will probably be sent out to people. Feel free to send this recording out to your clients as well, to hear a little bit more about investments, but this is just educational material, not financial advice. And we're going to be talking
Awesome.
about how to invest in cryptocurrencies today, how to get that exposure, different ways to go about doing that.
Awesome stuff. Let's get into it. Matt, I'm gonna be right back. Just keep going. I'll be back in like a minute. Just gonna grab a
All
water.
right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. So today's topics, how to get exposure in cryptocurrencies, reasons to use an index fund in the crypto space. I remember looking at index funds for cryptocurrencies a couple of years ago. They didn't really exist. There were some talks about it. Now there's quite a few. We'll talk about some of the relevant funds today. Obviously, when we're talking about stocks, there's a reason to get into an index just to spread out the capital that you're investing. Same with cryptocurrencies. Go ahead here. Yep. So we got the goal today. Understand how to participate, different ways to go about doing that. And we'll talk a little bit about how to get exposure to cryptocurrency. So the main way I find, I think most people here, and Demetrios and Randy, have you guys bought any cryptocurrencies? Do you have accounts with a centralized exchange?
Yeah,
I
I
think
have
Randy
got
has.
some,
Yeah.
yeah, through ShakePay and Coinomi. That's my
Got it. Okay. ShakePay. I know ShakePay. I haven't used it. I know everyone has their own platforms they like. So those are centralized exchanges. I think most people are in the centralized exchange world. Demetrios, what about yourself? Have you taken that plunge?
No, not yet. Not into the crypto world, at least. I don't know. My views can't really be encapsulated in a very short time. So I don't disagree with the market though. If you're making money, go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got it. I like how you said not yet. Why'd you say not yet instead of just no? Is it something you want to do? Is it something you're curious about? What are your thoughts?
So, like cash, crypto can be used for bad things too.
Yep.
Right. And
100%.
although I don't agree with regulating something that like this, because it would actually, my opinion, regulating something like this would just the right people aren't going to regulate it. Let's put it that way. And I think it'll do it more harm than good. And that's why I don't want to. I don't see myself investing just yet. Just the way the world is at the point, like at the moment, right?
Got it. Got it. Yeah, we could talk more about that offline. I'll just say,
That's why
I
I
think,
didn't want to go into it here. Not enough time.
yeah, I understand that. And I see, so centralized exchange where most people go, I have all of my crypto in centralized exchange, a little bit in a decentralized exchange. We'll talk more about that as well. There's also cold storage, which you don't need a third party custodian for those assets. When it comes to regulation, I think a lot of the regulation talk is sort of a cloak, not a cloak of invisibility like Harry Potter, sort of a cloak like, hey, we have control over this. We're regulating it. These are the rules, follow the rules. And people that really understand cryptocurrencies and how they work more than myself, they'll kind of say, yeah, but you don't really control it. you're just creating these rules and trying to get compliance out of it. And instead of going to the end user and trying to get the end user to comply, if the centralized exchange complies and the people running the registered accounts comply, then the end users really has no choice. But centralized exchange, we're going to list a bunch. There's some that me and Sergio like to use. Cold storage is safer against cybersecurity risk. Cold storage can look like printing out this code onto paper, keeping it in a fireproof safe. There are ways to do transactions with Bitcoin offline without power. Really interesting stuff. A lot of people think that it's just an internet currency. The cons of cold storage is that it's a whole lot more difficult. You're not going to be buying and selling. It's not really liquid. You're going to be holding it for a long amount of time. In a registered account, you can invest in a fund, and from there you can hold that in TFSA, RSP, get the tax advantage growth. It could be held with an established institution. A lot of people like that. As soon as some of these big banks and investment companies are offering these funds, a lot of people that haven't bought in will probably get some exposure, either through their own curiosity or with an advisor like us. You know, maybe one day we'll have a easy way to have our clients get some exposure in the cryptocurrency if they have that interest. It's a little harder to buy, sell, and trade in a registered account, more so for holding for the long haul. And decentralized exchange, I forgot about this one. Sergio threw it in. You can buy all of these assets. It's still very early. It's a very interesting concept. We'll show you one of the platforms today. But decentralized exchange, if you lose your password, that's a big thing. If you lose your password, you can't access your account. It's not like the bank. You can't call up and have them unlock it for you. It's gone. It's very hands off.
That's with cold storage and with DeFi, right? There's
Cold storage and DeFi. That's right.
Yeah. There's other
That's right.
there's other ways to hold your crypto where you could forget my password.
Yeah, and with a lot of these centralized exchange, like I know Nexo and Crypto.com, they have a very good customer service system. So the representatives will get back to you with issues signing in and whatnot. Binance fell victim to some regulation here in Ontario. They were really good for trading back and forth.
Fell victim to.
Fell victim to. Just got slaughtered just in Ontario, not even in Canada. Was that Doug Ford that would have done that? I'm assuming it was.
I don't think
it
that's
was while
Doug
he
Ford.
was in
I don't know if it's his sole decision, but
provincial.
yeah,
I'm
I
not sure
guess.
who it was. I don't know because
It is an
Doug
OCC. It is an Ontario Securities thing.
Ontario Securities. Okay, because
Yeah.
there's federal regulation, then there's also provincial regulation. But yeah, all of these have their pros and cons. Some are based in America. I believe Kraken, Coinbase, Nexo, Crypto.com, most of them. Coinberry, very friendly to use in Canada. I think it is from the EU. They've leaned into regulation. So a lot of these started out, you just set up an account. Now they want your driver's license, piece of ID, a little bit about you to set up your profile. And they're leaning in because it's hard to grow and get very large without leaning in and taking care of all of that regulation and partnering with the government.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to take for the space to continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, it's being held back. Either I know a lot of the libertarians want to have zero regulation, and it's like perfect. You own it, zero regulation, and the price isn't going to go up past what it's at. Or you can have this massive expansion, all of this sort of innovation happen, and there's going to be other problems as well, and we don't know what that's going to look like. There's
Exactly.
people switching hands, power always changes. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But these are some of the index funds that exist for cryptocurrencies. This one here is for the metaverse, sort of all these different metaverse coins put together into one index fund you can just buy units of. Another one for decentralized finance or DeFi. CI Securities has one as well for Sergio, you brought this one up. Is this one just Bitcoin, or are there other funds in there, other securities in there as well?
I think they have like a Bitcoin fund, an Ethereum fund,
Okay.
and then they have like a diversified portfolio of different crypto
Yeah.
assets. So like, yeah,
And that's a good way to,
and that you can invest through your like. Sorry to cut you off there, bro. That you can get in through, with the TFSA, RSP,
yeah,
non-registered.
yeah, CI securities and purpose. Purpose, this one is just holding Bitcoin. It's a way to buy Bitcoin with the traditional way of investing instead of opening up a decentralized or centralized account or using cold storage to go ahead about doing that. So this will have a lot more people feel comfortable taking that plunge. A big reason I'll say why index funds for stocks make sense and make maybe more sense than with cryptocurrencies is that you have to buy one stock. And when a stock gets really big, it's $2,000 for one stock. It's hard for you to buy that. And it's hard for you to buy into that every month as a dollar cost average. A lot of times these companies will have a stock split, and they'll, cut the price of their stock in half, double how many there are. Maybe they'll multiply by 5. With cryptocurrency, you don't really have that problem. It's infinite how little you can buy into. You can pick whatever amount, match it up with the dollar amount in Canada, Canadian dollars, and throw it in there. But this does allow you to sort of one-click buy into one sort of industry in the crypto world. It used to just be cryptocurrency was its own industry. Now it's sort of an umbrella for all these other different industries involved. Is there anything else to say about that, Serge?
No, I think yeah, it's growing, right? So we have these different industries or sectors inside of the crypto world, right? So we're gonna start seeing ETFs and all these different funds come out that might, you see them there focusing on decentralized finance, or you might have some that are focused on gaming or metaverse or I don't know, some stable coin or NFTs, right? Like we're gonna see, you're gonna see a lot of different products being created.
Yeah, and
Uh,
there's a deep understanding. I know when I hear metaverse, I'm not a huge fan, but I know my parents and a whole lot of people were at one point saying, I'm not going to get Facebook. I don't want my stuff to be online. I don't see the point of having this digital world. And now it's the norm. Everyone has a Facebook account that I know. So how many people are saying, you know what, I don't like the metaverse, I don't agree with it, are actually going to embrace it later on? And it's still very early. It's a very early time to invest. But that being said, there is a big difference between centralized finance and decentralized finance. Sergio, maybe you could talk about this a little bit more as I'm losing my voice.
well, that's one of the big allure to cryptocurrency is the fact that it's trustless, right? And what does that mean? That means there's an right? Algorithm.
Yep. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Everything's like algorithmically designed where you're trusting these algos that are going to do what they're going to do versus people now in traditional finance, it's people working with algorithms, and the algorithms are helping a lot. And, you know, humans are doing maybe less decision making, but even still, humans are still doing a lot of decision making, and decentralized finance has lower cybersecurity risks and all that. So that's the experiment right now. I don't know if anyone's like, there's no decentralized autonomous organizations that are like full. I don't know, at least that are like fully functional or like gonna compare to Google or Apple anytime soon. But the idea is to just build something that's more robust and just better and cheaper. And apparently
100%.
decentralized finance is that, or the idea of being decentralized is trying to fulfill on that.
That's right. And I think for a lot of people, seeing this change from, there's different levels with the bank, just looking at how a bond from the government, the process with the treasury will trickle down through the bank system to the end user. That's what we're so used to. There's so many parties involved. There's regulation. Going from one person through a technology that people don't understand because they haven't done the research to know how it works, right to the end user, might be a little bit scary. A lot of people like that there is no outside sort of involvement. A lot of people don't like that. But I'll just say, look at retail. Look at the retail world. Used to have manufacturers go to, distributors that would sell to a warehouse, that would sell to a store, that would sell to you. And there'd be markups along the way. There'd be this whole supply chain in the retail world. And now so many people are able to just open a store, make something, sell it directly to you, or do it through FBA, do it fulfilled by Amazon. And it cuts out the middleman. It allows smaller businesses to go ahead and flourish without being sort of pushed out. So maybe we'll see something similar in the decentralized finance world as well.
Yeah, let's see, man. Let's see.
So we'll take a shallow dive, not a deep dive,
Not a
because we're
deep dive.
cut for time.
Yeah, we're not developers.
We'll take a shallow dive into one decentralized finance coin and platform. This is the coin. You can see started 2020, was trading at just over $1, shot up like crazy, over $40, back down. A lot of people look at this, it's like a roller coaster ride, really scary. And I'll show you exactly what it is
Look at the
that
volatility on
I'm
that.
referring
Holy.
to. Very volatile. And
Up
that's
40 times, down 80%, up for, like holy.
Yep. So this is the coin I'm talking about, Pancake Swap. It is not small, not large when we look at market cap, rank 51. So a lot of people might not be familiar, but it isn't something that was just invented yesterday. This is their platform. And we wonder sometimes, how come people are so hesitant to lean into this new financial world? Well, their home screen has cartoon bunny rabbits on it with pancakes and syrup, so it does look kind of ridiculous. And people say, why would I take this seriously? This isn't an actual organization. But then you look at how much money is involved, $5.2 billion in one place. Compare that to some of the segregated funds that we're recommending our clients invest in. And this would be so much larger. Yes, Sergio, this would be so much larger than that. We have a lot of people involved here, and it is worldwide. The one thing I'll show, which had me sort of lean in and get a little bit interested, first they have some NFTs. People say that's overpriced JPEGs, but
Many different
just
types of NFTs.
just staking their coin. So buying their coin at 8.647 US dollars, putting it in here. Right now, their interest rate, it is variable. It's 63%. So 63% variable interest rate. There's nowhere that I know of in the traditional financial world that you will see this. They have a calculator. Feel free to go ahead and click around on here.
Because there's a lot of risk though, right?
wallet.
Like typically when you get paid
Lots.
more, typically when you get paid a higher interest rate, like usually it's because there's more risk associated. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the case. Like
100%.
it says high. Like look what it says at the top left. Just stake some tokens to earn high APR, low risk.
I don't know how they say that.
Like I guess maybe low risk in the sense of like Pancake Swap isn't going to zero anytime soon, so you might as well just stake your cake with us, or
Most likely. And there have been other, this right here, this system, VVS Finance. I noticed they all look the same. They all have ways to trade. They have Pancake Swap uses Binance Coin to pay for fees. VVS Finances uses Crypto.com's coin. They partner with Crypto.com. This looked like it was going to be a very, very
APR
big.
there?
Yeah. Look at over
Whoa.
200. So I've seen over 1,000. And it seems like the more people that stake, the more money in here, the lower the interest rate is. So there's a way to look at the inner workings of what this is. But with PancakeSwap, this has been a pretty stable APY. It's been in the 60s for maybe close to a year now. From the first time I checked to now,
Oh, that's
their
good.
price of their coin does fluctuate a lot. So
Okay.
you got to look at the price of their coin, how it relates to US dollar, Canadian dollar, and then what their interest rate is. They're probably their biggest competitor is Uniswap. So these are systems that allow people to trade and invest in the DeFi world. Uniswap is a much bigger platform than PancakeSwap. They're in competition with each other. So there is no monopoly. There's not going to be this monopoly. Hey, we made a code, no one else can make it. Someone else could come in with some ingenuity. They could clone it, then they have to market it, say why it's better, or they can create their own, maybe a little bit differently. And I'll mention one more coin as well. That is Helium. Helium is a company working on the People's Network. You set up these Wi-Fi router looking things and you provide an internet signal very, very far away, not like Wi-Fi where it's very close. And then there are these, watches, dog collars, tracking chips and packages. There are these things that will run off of that network. Maybe this will be dethroned by Tesla's Skylink or Elon Musk. I don't know if it's underneath Tesla or SpaceX, but this is something that you can, instead of buying into their coin, which you can do, it's publicly traded, you can buy one of these miners. And instead of Bitcoin, where you have to look through their code and use proof of work, this uses proof of coverage. Essentially, you're providing a service, and in exchange for providing the service, you get rewarded their cryptocurrency. And that's the way their cryptocurrency is worth something, because their platform is working and they're selling this service to other companies. So instead of a company creating a stock, going through all the regulation for a stock, now they might just go through a cryptocurrency instead. So it looks a whole lot different. Anyway, I've done a lot of talking, Serge. Over.
It's over. It's over.
I think we had one more thing to mention, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, let's just recap, okay? So what was the point of what we talked about today, right? Different ways to get exposure to cryptocurrency, right? So you could either hold it yourself. That's called cold storage. I haven't done that yet. It seems like it's a lot of work, but I don't think it is, right? It's just there's a lot of responsibility there. You're trusting yourself with custody of those assets, and depending on what you
100%.
have, it could be worth a lot of money. Then you could go with centralized exchanges, right? So people that you create an account, you send them your driver's license, KYC, know your client, and you can, keep your assets there. They're going to make fees every time you buy and sell. They're going to charge you to hold your assets a little bit, take care of. They're doing some of that work for you, right? So you could do it that way. Like you were just talking about with DeFi and with HNT, you can actually invest in equipment, put the equipment to work, and then you're going to start earning that cryptocurrency. Hopefully the project succeeds and it has utility and it becomes something that is worth more in the future. You're taking a risk there. And then we got the index funds now. We're seeing different index funds, right? So just to recap, so a bunch of different ways you can get involved. So if anyone ever asks you, like, hey, like, how can I get involved in cryptocurrency? Now you have some answers for them. Okay. We're going to leave you guys with some homework that we're going to take up next session. I know we didn't do that today because we didn't have anyone do the homework from last week. Demetrios and Randy, if you guys are going to be coming on for the next one, I invite you to take a look at the homework and have it ready for the next couple weeks. Not next week, but the week after we're back on. Okay.
Yep. And we don't want it to be a big thing. Take 5 minutes, think about it, reach out, start a conversation with me or Sergio, talk with each other. Not going to be a huge thing. We're not going to give you an hour of homework, nothing like that. Maybe 5 minutes. Write
Take like
down some thoughts.
5 minutes.
Yeah. If there's any research you want to do, we can share some links that might be useful. We're going to send out an email. And next time we're meeting for a Wealth Wednesday is not next week. It's 2 weeks from now. We're doing it every other week.
That's right. Perfect. All right, guys.
Awesome. And any questions or thoughts, Randy or Dimitros, anything that you guys want to mention?
No,
No.
actually, thank you guys for your time.
No worries, guys. This was fun.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
Awesome.
good one.
You too, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.